get rid of our quadrant, and I'm going to put an equation on the board. H of t equals negative 16t squared plus 75t plus 4.5. Okay? This is the equation we're going to be working with right now. So to start off, I want to break down this equation. First, I want to look at this part right here, ht. H of t. What this represents is height. See the h right there? Kind of makes sense. Height. H and height. Height starts with h. So this means height. Okay. Normally, this part would be the y equals. So it's no different. It's still y equals. We're just calling it a different letter so that we know that it means height, because the h corresponds to the h in height. All right? But think of it like y equals still. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to write this equation again, except I'm going to put a number in for this h of t. So 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 75t plus 4.5. So 0 is what h of t equals. H of t is height. That means 0 is our height. So when you see a 0 out in front here, talking about equations in this format, the height is 0. So let's do another example. Let's do 70 equals negative 16t squared plus 75t plus 4.5. So nothing changed on the right side of the equal sign. However, now we have a 70 on the left. The 70 took the place of the h of t. So h of t means height. That means 70 is our height. Height is 70, so maybe I should write that here. So height, well, the first one was 0. Height of this one is 70. So whatever this number is, that's the height. One more problem. 22 equals negative 16t squared plus 75t plus 4.5. So now we have a 22 in the height spot. That means the height is 22. Okay? So, this h of t, that corresponds to height. Whatever the number is right here, that is what the height is. Okay? If you ever want to put in a height, so say a ball is 10 feet up. The height of the ball is 10 feet. That means I would put a 10 in for my h of t. Okay, so I put a 10 in. That means a height of 10. Okay, so that's all we're going to talk about with that. The next part of the equation we're going to talk about is the t part. So we see a t right here, a t right there, and a t right there. T stands for time. Or you can think about it as our x's. So normally in an equation, when you type it into your calculator, you would type y equals and then numbers with x's. That's what you have on your calculator, but you don't have t's on your calculator. So the t's are like the x's. Okay? Think of the t's like the x's. So t stands for time. T stands for time. T stands for time. H stands for height, but t stands for time. All right? So that means if I were to put a number in for any of those t's, that means how much time there is. So if I were to say h of 3 equals negative 16 3 squared plus 75 times 3 plus 4.5, I put in a 3 here, I put in a 3 here, I put in a 3 here. All those locations are by my arrows where the t's are. So when I put in a 3 for each of those, that means our time is 3. So time is 3. Okay? Let's do another example. Let me put in instead of 2 inside. So h of 2 equals negative 16 2 squared plus 75 2 plus 4.5. I put in a 2 for all my t locations. That means the time is 2. Okay? One more example. Put in a 4.5. So I put a 4.5 in for all my t's. T, T, T. That means our time is 4.5. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you a different type of problem. I'm going to tell you, I want a time of 5 seconds. A time of 5 seconds. What does that mean? I want a time of 5 seconds. What does that mean? Put in a 5 for all your t's. So I said I want a time of 5, so that means I'm going to put a 5 here, 5 here, a 5 here. And for all my locations of t. That's all you do. So h of t, that's height. T, that means time. All right? Lastly, we're going to talk about initial height. Okay? So initial height, think of the word initial. Initial is kind of like initiate. When you initiate something, you start it. So the initial height is the starting height. Okay? So let me write that right here. So let me rewrite t is time. I'm going to write 4.5 is our initial height. Okay. So the 4.5 I'm talking about is this number at the end of our quadratic equation. It's the number without any t's. Notice here we have negative 16t squared. Here we have plus 75t. And then we have 4.5. It doesn't have a t. That's the number we're concerned with. The number without any t's. That is our initial height. That's our starting height. In other words, if I were to throw a ball from where I'm standing right now, my hand's about 3 feet off the ground. So the initial height would be 3 feet. Okay? Right now in this equation, we have 4.5. That means the initial height is 4.5 feet. So, let's do this instead. Let's write an equation with an initial height of 5. So, initial height, instead of 4.5, I want it to be 5. So how would my equation change? What I would do, write h of t equals negative 16t squared plus 75t plus 5. 5 because we wanted initial height of 5. So we're starting 5 feet off the ground when we throw our ball. So I'm about 6 feet. I'd be throwing my ball from right about here. Okay? Initial height of 5. Now I'm going to tell you, we're going to start off the top of a building. Our initial height is going to be 30 feet. Okay? That might be close to 3 stories, a 3-story building. 30 feet. So our initial height of 30 feet, how's that going to change our equation? 30, we're just going to write h of t equals negative 16t squared plus 75t plus our initial height goes at the very end. That's the 30. Right there. Okay. All right. And let's do one more example. I have that same equation, and look at the number I have at the end. 120. What is my initial height of this equation? It's 120 feet, because we don't know what we labeled it. So, initial height is 120. Okay. So let's review what we've all done in this last section. We talked about this equation. We talked about the h. That's the y equals part. That's our height. So if we put in a number for h, that's how high we're starting. That's how high we want, how high we want. So if I put in a 0 for there, that means our height is 0 feet off the ground, currently. Then we looked at our t's. Our t's stood for time. If I put in a 2 for each of these t's, that means 2 seconds. if I wanted to say, I want to look at it, the graph when it's 3 seconds, I put in a 3 for all the t's. Then lastly, we talked about initial height. That's the number without any t's at the end. That's the starting height. When time is 0, that's the starting height. Okay? And then before that, we talked about x-intercepts. That happens when y equals 0. Y-intercepts, that happens when x equals 0. And then we talked about our quadrants that start in the top right, goes left, down, and around. Okay? That's all there is to it. Please watch this video again, pause it, and come in to me if you need more help.